Alright, take a moment to bullshit about engine balancing. I got 3 big block Chevy crankshafts here. I just recently had balanced. This is a 454. This is a 496. And this is a 427. 454, it's external balanced. This 496 was, but I had it internal balanced. Had to have some slugs put in there in each end of the outermost counterweights, and then them opened up a little deeper, and then that one there costed the most on the balance job. This 427 didn't need much. It took just some metal had to come out of it. Same with the 454. Didn't have to add none. So you add metals when the shit gets expensive. But just taking it away, it ain't so bad. But balancing is, you hear a lot of different shit about it. Some people say it's unnecessary, while others balance every single engine they build. No, I've built a lot of engines over the years that weren't balanced, just basic rebuilds for people. Like some old guy got a pickup truck and his engines wore out and he just wanted a basic rebuild. Used the stock crank rods, throw in some factory replacement pistons, put that thing together, and it'll never know the difference. It'll run fine for a long time. But then there's the high performance world. You start wanting to turn RPMs and make big power with this shit. That's a horse of a different color. Generally, anything you plan on taking over, say, 6,000 RPM regularly, you better go ahead and get it balanced. And it ain't so much the RPM, balancing an engine don't make your engine automatically capable of more RPMs, but it makes it smoother at high RPMs. And if it's got a lot of imbalance, the higher you turn it, the worse it gets. And that shit can lead to broken crankshafts, cracked blocks, spun bearings. Just the harmonics, you got a rotating assembly way out of balance, spinning 6, 7, 8,000 RPM. Just the harmonics in that shit can wreak havoc on all kind of components. You even crack your block. But here's my spec sheets on my 3 big blocks I just done. Made some observations on this shit that are kind of interesting. Like the 496. So the bob weight, you take your rod bearing, your piston, your rings, your piston clips, everything that's hanging off the end of that crankshaft, and weigh it all individually. Like this one, the rotating weight on the rod is 528. The rod bearing is 45 grams, 8 grams oil allowance. The piston in the pin, 770 grams with an oil rail. The locks were 4 grams. The ring set was 58 grams. And the rod reciprocating weight was 216. And then you add your bob weight. That's the total combined weight of all that shit. 2,202 grams. That's on the 496 310 bore, 4.25 stroke. So 2,202 grams. That's internal balance. So it even had weight added to the crank. In the 454 here, the bob weight on it's 2365. So there's fucking 163 more grams on the bob weight on the 454 than the 496. Which the rod rotating weight was 557, where the 496 is 528. The rod bearings were 55 grams versus 45. The piston with pin is 866 grams compared to 770. And the rod reciprocating weight was lighter at 212 versus 216. The rings are 55 grams versus 58 grams, which that's probably because this one has a bridge. The oil reel. So I found that to be strange. It's 4 1/4 bore, 4-inch stroke. So it's a 454. But then you get your 427. That's the heaviest of all. It's rotating rod weight 577 versus 557 versus 528. Rod bearings were 44 grams versus 55 versus 45. There's this 454, it was like a 30,000 or 20. It was a 30 thousandths over bearing, so that would make it heavier. And then the piston and pin weight on the 427 is 876 compared to 866 on the 454 compared to 770 on the 496. And then 427 is 2436 bob weight. So it is 234 grams heavier than the 496. And then about 132 grams heavier than the 454. And that's a 4.310 bore, 3.76 stroke. So, and It's internal balance. External on the 454, internal on the 496. The 496 uses Wiseco pistons. They're pretty light. The 454 uses old school TRW power forged pistons. And the 427 uses icons. And the icons were the heaviest out of all of them. But the price of the shit to get the 427 balanced, paid, which is $249 for balancing, but my dude cuts me a deal because I'm a regular customer. So $215 what he charged me, and he just polished the crank for $30, so $245 to balance that 427. And then the 454 was $239. And 496, it needed heavy metal, several chunks, but it was $445.50 by the time it was $102 for the heavy metal, and then $70 to install it. So internal balancing these big blocks cost more. But internal balance is better in my opinion. External balance, big block Chevy, really never know the difference, but I feel like you gotta turn them up high RPMs. It's better to internal balance them. But you got 245 on the 427, 239 on the 454, and 445.50 on the 496. So there's what it cost me to balance these three big block Chevy engines I'm working on. Balancing this, not really that, it's not rocket science. You just take all your fucking pistons, weigh them all, find the lightest one, and then match them all to that lightest one. These, he took material off here, so it ain't nowhere it's gonna cause any problems. It's a big dome there, 50cc dome. So all them pistons weigh pretty much exactly the same. My balance dudes are fucking good. Trackmaster Balancing, they're in Indiana. I highly recommend them. If you need some shit done, they good prices too, and that's all they do, so quick turnaround as well. And you take your rods and make them all weigh the same, and then fucking just match everything up. You'd be amazed how much weight differences in pistons and rods and shit though, and it all adds up. But anything you're gonna give hell, you better go ahead and get it balanced. It's just, makes good sense. Like I said, the only way you can get away without it is if you're using, which factory balance wasn't even, left a lot to be desired. But if you go with a crank from one source, rods from another, and pistons from another, and it's a mismatch of parts, you better get that shit balanced. But if you're just doing a stock rebuild with stock rebuilder pistons, you throw it together and you never know the difference. But like I said, you get over 6,500 RPM, and that vibration, the faster it's spinning, the harder that vibration gets, and it can break shit. End up costing you a lot of money. As much as these fucking parts cost these days, it'd be a shame to break just over some. You could have spent a couple of $100 and prevented it. Not to mention they run so much smoother and it's just better on the engine. So pretty much all my engines I balance, because I mostly anymore I just build high performance drag race type engines, maybe street strip shit, but I don't do too many stock rebuilds. It does not interest me. And I retired from the automotive industry a few years ago when the world shut down and our shop went under, and I said fuck it. And I've only done it for myself since. I don't do customers' engines anymore, but I did for decades. But the world has changed and the automotive industry's changed, and I'd rather stay stuck in the fucking past myself. I'm kind of like these old parts, come from a different era, and I'd rather stay in that fucking era. That's why I shun most modern shit, especially cars. You couldn't give me a new car. I much prefer driving my old beaters. They might not be pretty, but they suit my fucking needs. They're cheap to fix, easy to work on, dependable. Hell, my old 40-year-old C10 truck, you could drive it any fucking where, and it hauls ass, and it'll start right up and take you across the country if you need it to, 10 miles to the gallon, but it'll get you there, no problem. All my rotating assemblies are ready for my big blocks. There's the pistons, and there's connecting rods. And this is my living room. This is how everybody should have their living room decorated. Got fucking shit. Here's my best friend's hat that died about 15 years ago. He used to wear that hat everywhere. I fuck with model cars too. This is pretty much my big block Chevy stash in here. I got boxes and boxes and fucking, it never ends. But there it is. Get your shit balanced if you're gonna go fast. And if you just building a fucking cruiser or stock rebuild, I wouldn't worry about it so much. I mean, hell, you can balance these fucking things to the 9th degree, have everything perfect, but the fucking oil in the engine's constantly moving around, and it has weight to it, so it's impossible to get them perfectly fucking balanced. But be amazed how far some of them are out, especially when you're using components from different shit, you know. So do yourself a favor, you build a hot rod engine, balance that motherfucker. Be glad you did. That's that.